In the comments of my last Notoriety video, there were two prevailing takeaways. One, play Entry Point, idiot. It's perfect for your Payday-like series, so yes, that's now on the list. And two, try out the Notoriety DLCs. They're two of the best heists in the game, and you've completely missed out on them. So against my better judgment, here I am, credit card in hand, to find out just whether the Roblox extortion is worth the paid content the Notoriety devs have cooked up. Whilst I'm at it, I might as well test out all 6 of the primary DLC weapon packs that add some seriously out there options to our arsenal. The primary intention from me is just to play more Notoriety. I thoroughly enjoyed it last time and it seemed you guys did too, but I always like to pretend there's some greater purpose to my videos, so I guess I'm also going to tell you which of the DLCs are worth splashing the cash on with a limited budget. Look, I'm not going to endorse the kind of degenerate spend I'm about to embark on to everyone watching, am I? Anyway, that said, if you missed the last video, Notoriety, a Payday experience, is now a fully licensed Roblox rendition of Payday, taking the majority of its core gameplay mechanics and heists directly from Payday 2. I recommend you give my initial impressions video a look over if that sounds interesting and you want further details. This video assumes you have at least half an idea of what's going on and want to know if the paid elements of the game are worth your time and money. I can already tell you the free version of Notoriety is well worth a look for Payday fans, despite its blocky quirks. Even better, the game is being actively patched and updated. Just the other week, we received a new secondary in the form of the Raging Bull, new animations for things like answering pages and picking locks, as well as a partial solution to the host kick problem Payday suffered from for years, meaning kick players will still benefit from secured loot. Oh, and bloody camera sentries, and they're amazing. Basically, the Notoriety team knows what they're doing, and things are getting better even without spending any cash, so I'm excited to see what real money can get you when so much love has been poured into the base experience. So let's kick off this video by getting my wallet out and taking a closer look at the storefront, which I kept as far away from as possible in that first video. In its defense, it's never really thrust on you, but the store is pretty impactful. The first thing to touch on are the safes. These are purchasable for in-game cash only, and are essentially ways to earn masks in this game. You find the most common safes around heists and can upgrade their quality by collecting multiple and combining them, or you can just cut out the busy work and spend in-game cash here. This is pretty much fine. As much as loot boxes feel archaic at this point, there's nothing particularly wrong with this execution. What I'm not keen on is being able to purchase in-game currency directly for Robux. To me, there's absolutely no way this is A, a good idea, or B, a good deal, with the exchange rate sitting somewhere in the region of £1 per 100k in-game. If you don't want to buy the cash outright, you can just buy cash and XP boosters instead, which double your earning rates for an hour. Here's the thing though, normally this kind of cash shop would be indicative of a grind fest of a game, but to be honest, that's not the case at all in Notoriety. Progression feels well paced, so whilst I'd rather it didn't exist, this part of the cash shop basically doesn't have to, and it's important it stays that way. I can't see a good argument for spending here unless you expressly want to help out the devs, and if that's the case, there are much higher value purchases you can be making. For a bit of context, as I understand it, Roblox effectively takes a far greater cut from creators than what's publicly advertised, so these sorts of cash shop elements seem like a necessary evil for devs. I'm no expert on this, but it seems like it's a product of the monetization environment Roblox has cultivated, rather than any malpractice or explicitly bad intentions from the devs. Anyway, that's the most damning part of the shop looked into. Let's get into the good stuff, the heists and the weapons. Golden Mask Casino and Brick Bank are the two paid experiences and can both be picked up for just under 950 Robux in total, so a shade under £10. I'll talk more on whether these heists match that value a little later in the video, but first I need to mention, like in Payday 2, both these heists are playable without the DLC. If someone else hosts the lobby, you can just hop in, public or not. Case in point, I literally opened up the server browser and found an empty lobby hosting the Brick Bank heist, meaning I was able to try it out for free without purchasing. Overall, these heists are monetized in as unrestricted a way as possible, which I do appreciate. Moving on to the weapon packs, these are sold at a variety of price points dependent on their size, content and seemingly how recently they released. They all sell for within that £2.50 to £6 range though. For the most part, this is reasonable. Not all weapon packs are of the same quality, but I do feel like a fair bit of effort has gone into offering an exciting mix of non-vanilla options. Instead of side grades, expect to buy things like miniguns or flamethrowers, giving you an entirely unique experience in exchange for the purchase. Finally, we have the game passes, which include the tip jar if you simply want to support development, as well as permanent account boosts such as cheaper infamy, double cash, or double experience. Unlike the boosters, these remain with your account indefinitely and operate under that sort of skip the grind license I was alluding to earlier. My take, they're absolutely not necessary to enjoy the game and progression feels well paced without them. However, if you insist on buying things and you already have the tangible DLCs you want, I'd say spend on this before you consider throwing away real world cash on Notoriety dollars. So that's everything from Notoriety's end, but what about actually buying the Robux required for these things? In total, my napkin maths has worked out the full content DLC package to come in at just over 3,000 Robux, whilst you'll need to shell out an additional 1,117 if you want the account boosts. Of course, Robux isn't sold in exact amounts, so you're going to have a tricky time spending just what you need to. The £20 bundle falls short at 2,000, whilst the £50 bundle covers the lot but seriously breaks the bank. If you want to just break it down into increments, you could buy the £20 and £10 sets, but then you'll fall agonisingly short of the extra needed for that final DLC, meaning you'll need to shell out another £5. Then there's whatever the hell's going on with Roblox Premium, which offers 1,000 Robux up front for $9.99 and gives you better deals on future Robux purchases. Although you know the 35% is only going to come into the equation when you're shelling out on the big bundle, which is £200. I honestly cannot fathom this level of expenditure and kind of resent the unnecessary complexity to it all. The pricing incorporates some nasty psychological tricks, which is especially evil when you consider Roblox's child-friendly focus. However, they got me. Instead of messing around trying to min-max a system that's designed to confuse, I just let them win. I spent 50 quid, lads, on Robux. I said this would never happen. It's a slippery slope, but you've got to do it for the love of the YouTube game. If you appreciate my sacrifice, please leave a like on this video. It's my only hope of making it back. Anyway, with that painful transaction finally out of the way, I can actually get to testing these DLCs, so let's start with the heist. Brick Bank is up first, emulating what is arguably Payday 2's most iconic original heist, Big Bank, within the Notoriety setting. This one is fairly faithful in terms of its objectives, simplifying in certain areas whilst retaining the same overall gist. We need to hack into a randomly dictated office computer, although they do spell out which one for us solo players, which isn't the case in Payday 2. That kicks off the time lock on the second section of the bank, although you will need to rewire it on the rooftop if you're already in loud at this stage. At the same time, you'll need to locate a USB drive and the manager's laptop located in a new front office on the second floor to activate a crane to drag this heist special drill onto the roof pickup. This is a simplified version of Floyd the Pig without completely losing the inspiration. Once the time lock is cleared, you can set the drill up at the vault and hold out in the inner atrium. Just a word on the layout here, things are reminiscent of Payday 2's Big Bank in concept, but quite different in execution. The entire second section of the bank is vastly simplified down to just 2 rooms and the vault itself, whilst the main hall lacks its inspiration's grandeur, cutting down on an entire wing of offices on the west side. Overall though, it's a valiant effort that still makes for a fun heisting playground within the confines of Roblox. There's plenty of fun choke points to hold out, and I thought spawns were quite varied relative to other heists. Moving back to the vault though, once inside there are several cages you can drill open, each with their own selection of cash, gold, deposit boxes and safes to crack. The potential max loot haul on this one is impressive, especially if you have the patience to grab everything. Also, there's a secondary code mechanism to open up this room that involves finding numerous folders around the bank, each containing a single digit of this long code. It's a bit clunky in execution, but I quite like the idea of a treasure hunt that rewards exploration with something tangible to gameplay. In terms of lifting the loot to safety, the standard approach is the usual rooftop escape, as Goose will hover above the bank for as long as you need to lug it back through the hallways. Alternatively, there's an expensive but immensely useful escape asset available in the form of the iconic bus tunnel. I absolutely love that they executed on this concept here in Notoriety for what is an objectively superior escape, allowing you to toss the bags into the bus right next to the vault entrance, completing this one for a fairly large cash and XP injection, especially after I just splashed out an extra tenner on it. In stealth, things are mostly the same, which I think is to its detriment. We still need to call in the drill, for example, which is a fine stealth objective, but feels like a missed opportunity for a more unique vault entrance. As I always say, drill time has become a massive issue in stealth, as there's simply nothing to do but stand and wait in front of them. Still, the heist layout is solid for staying silent, and I appreciate dodging the extra time lock step for retaining it on this one. What I don't appreciate is the complete lack of a stealth escape asset. There's no equivalent to the bus escape, meaning we have to drag the bags of loot all the way back through the bank. This is not only time consuming, but also damn risky this late into the heist. Maybe the bus just works in stealth, but that sounds like it shouldn't be the case, and I haven't tested. You can change up your route and drop down from the rooftop to reduce that risk, but I still feel like there should be an alternative stealth escape plan just to smooth out the experience, especially solo. Overall, I enjoyed Brickbank, but honestly, no more than some of the game's own original heists. It falls into a bit of a trap by trying to emulate a true classic instead of bringing something new to the formula. My preference would have been to retain the inspired layout, but then tailor the objectives more towards the things Notoriety's gameplay is suited for. More challenging movement objectives in stealth, less focus on waiting out time locks and drills, would be a start to help the pacing. What I will say is the music on this heist is standout. It still has the same issue of not phasing between assaults very cleanly, but the track is superior to most of the vanilla heists. My take on this one is that I'd actually like to see something more derivative when trying to implement classics. I find that the holes in Notoriety's gameplay open up when it works too hard to emulate Payday 2 experiences to the letter. I'd rather see them take things in their own direction and focus on the heisting sandbox as they did when implementing Watch Dogs. Moving on to Golden Mask Casino, I think a lot of my feedback from Brickbank holds true here. In Loud we go with the C4 entry, blasting open a space to drill, before locating winch parts and fireworks to call in Notoriety's version of the BFD, complete with laser cutter, the need for 3 power cables, and a constant demand for water from the bathroom. I think the gel section of this heist is fairly unique and does a good job of sticking closely to its roots, although as a solo player you will spend a lot of time in the toilets filling up bottles of water. This speaks for a more general issue I have with interactions in this game, as I believe some are simply too lengthy and hurt its pacing. This water objective is a prime example, but things are actually worse in stealth when you need to do things like open up lockers to find a vault code. If you want to hide an objective like this, the interaction time with each vault door should be close to instant, or you're going to end up boring the player. I think quite a few objectives in the game could be reviewed and sped up in what would be a purely positive change. Once the laser's done the full 360 though, we can climb down into the vault which holds exclusively cash that needs to be lifted out to the escape van located in the rear of the casino. I think it was sensible making this the set escape location instead of having us drag all these bags back out front. You'll need at least 10 on the hardest difficulty, meaning you will need to pick lock a few gates before loading them onto this manual lift which cuts down on the moving process slightly. Overall, I'm seldom a fan of vast bag-moving sections of heists, but Golden Mask handles this just fine, leading to a condensed but still relatively faithful loud rendition of the Golden Grain Casino. Personally though, I was more impressed by the stealth approach. Here, you'll first need to locate the archives for a document detailing which room within the casino plans has a vent that reaches the security room. Pretty much the exact same plan from Payday 2. You'll need to find the keys to that room, which currently houses Brickman, Notoriety's golden creator, as he waits outside in one of 2 locations to be dealt with. It's a shame the whole spiking thing is missing here, but I wonder if that has anything to do with the allowed themes of a Roblox game. You certainly can't gamble any cash away on the slots, which is ironic to me when the game happily contains what amounts to effectively loot boxes. The other issue with this room key objective is the 2 locations Brickman heads to are quite well trafficked. You can take the guard out, but still have no guarantee a civ won't stumble across your hostage. As a result, I just found myself shooting Brickman, which feels a little disrespectful. If he headed to the toilets instead, this probably wouldn't be necessary. Anyway, from there you can unlock his room, drop sleeping gas through the vents to the security office, and knock out cams. You still need to locate that 3-digit keycard though, which means finding 3 folders across 3 distinct locations. Some of these are quite public areas, which can be tricky, but I enjoyed the fact that as I learned the heist, I got much better at picking off these objectives as I progressed. That always feels like a nice reward for gaining heist knowledge. Once in, through the security room and with the lasers taken down, it's just a case of hauling those 10 or more bags back up to the same van escape as Loud. My one frustration here was the fact that security out in the corridors stumbled across the bodies of the guards the gas had knocked out. This means you should move these guys out of sight once you get inside, which is actually pretty much the same case as in Payday 2. Overall, I think Golden Mask does a better job as a classic heist conversion, especially in stealth, which feels like a unique and separate experience from Loud. That said, I probably enjoyed Brickbank more when going Loud, just because I like the way combat flows on it. Both are good heists, but importantly, are they worth more than what they cost in Payday 2? The answer there is sadly no. By no means am I suggesting I don't like these heists, and if you specifically want to support the devs of Notoriety, this can't be a bad way. What I think it does display though is just how much love and care the team puts into all heists they make. For my money, there are free heists in this game that outperform these paid ones. In particular, the Alessa remake really springs to mind. I also enjoy Notoriety originals, so I think if I was going to pay for any heist in the future, I'd be more tempted if it was either an original or a ground up remake that takes no more than the bare bones of the heist it's emulating. This is less so a call out saying these paid heists aren't good enough, more a statement of shock as for some reason the best heists in the game are free, and honestly, I'm not complaining. And hell, if you're willing to go online, you can even play the DLC heists without owning them. So pick these up if you desperately want to solo stealth either of them, or would like to support the game more generally, but if that is the case, then my first recommendation is to take a look at the weapon bundles first, because some of these are fantastic. In total, you're looking at 6 separate potential purchases, all with quite varied price points, content SKUs, and value propositions. One thing worth mentioning is the fact that all DLC weapons are immediately available at no in-game cost, meaning it can be an opportunity to pick up some rather overpowered options early on. 5 of the packs are quite easy to compare as they all provide primary or secondary weapons, although the Ninja pack is slightly different and it only contains gadgets which take up a completely different slot in your arsenal. We have the Dynamite, a more impactful version of the frag grenade just with a lower capacity and longer fuse time, the Shuriken, a higher capacity, lower damage throwing knife, the Smoke Bomb, which is actually an area denial damage over time weapon, not a dodge facilitator, and the Subspace Trip Mine, which is the only remote triggering gadget, but effectively functions like dynamite anyway. My take is that these are all well implemented and can add a new element to a build, but don't feel particularly necessary at all, given the vanilla game's alternatives. In fact, I don't even think the best DLC gadget comes from this pack, so I'm inclined to recommend giving this one a miss. Speaking of that gadget, the Arson pack is up next, including quite a variety of weapons, primarily focused on incendiary damage, starting with the Torch Flamethrower. This thing is incredibly unique, functioning unlike any other weapon in the game. Whilst it still deals direct damage, it also creates damage over time pools on the floor. It's a fun thing to experiment and play around with, although I found it a little clunky at times, just given the inconsistent way it outputs its damage. Also in the primary slot, this pack will give you access to the powerful crossbow, a weapon placed in the sniper category for skill synergies. Like its Payday counterpart, this thing is naturally silenced and fires bolts that can be picked up again, so it is theoretically ammo neutral. Use it like a sniper and you'll find it pretty damn effective. Finally, you have the flare gun, which exists within the gadget slot but functions as a revolver for skill bonuses. This is a one-shot projectile machine that can resupply itself. The projectile it fires flies very true, meaning it's a perfect sidearm for any build that needs more range or one-shot potential. My take is that this is the best gadget in the game, unless you're specifically bringing something like the sword for utility, making this a quality bundle, as I really appreciate the variety within it. However, I also believe it's the latest release, meaning it retails at roughly £6. I do like it, but given the price tag, I have to put it at 5th place on my Notoriety DLC purchase tier list. Next up, we have the Veteran Pack, another more varied offering bringing some older weapons to the game. The M1 Garand and Winchester 1873 Repeater are both sniper category guns with medium-high damage and excellent accuracy. The Garand just saw a few nerfs in this patch though, meaning I was more heavily drawn to the Winchester, which is damn satisfying to shoot. If you're a headshot machine, you can certainly make these things work as they feel like an obvious step up from something like the M14, granting consistent one-shot kills. The third weapon in this pack is the China Lake, this game's only grenade launcher, which helpfully falls within the secondary slot. Its blast radius isn't massive, but its direct damage is high, and it also flies incredibly true, making it solid even over range. Not a bad secondary option at all, but probably not the strongest if you're looking for explosives, although I'll save that one for later in the video. This pack is just very solid, it's at the midpoint in terms of cost and offers a lot of variety. I just didn't see any massive standouts within the package to list any higher than 4th. Instead, top 3 privilege goes to the massive 4-weapon Wasted Shotgun pack. This contains 3 primary shotguns, the Vepr 12, KSG 12 and M10 14, alongside the ridiculously fast-firing Striker 12 in the secondary slot. I really vibe with the KSG, it has a lot of stopping power and feels good over range, functioning like any quintessential pump action in this game. The M10 14 is also excellent, with solid damage and a top tier fire rate that makes it a perfect room clearer. I'm not so sure about the Vepr, a weaker, fully auto alternative that struggles due to a low mag capacity. Because it's fully auto, it doesn't benefit from Shotgun Blaster, meaning we're stuck at a max of 10 shots per reload. Finally, the Striker is an even lower damage alternative, although this one can reach a 27 shell capacity, meaning it gets to make use of that fire rate to put the damage out rapidly. There are vanilla game alternatives that stand up well to most of the primary additions, but the Striker is incredibly unique and certainly adds some variety to your roster of weapons. With 4 weapons coming with the bundle, there's a fair bit to mess around with, even if I'm skeptical of the value of the Vepr, and at a budget cost of around $250, this bundle's value for money is tough to match. Although the Marksman weapon pack makes a good attempt to do so. This is another 4-weapon bundle containing purely primary snipers, but the variety here is quite impressive regardless. I should also note that Sniper is a less well represented base game weapon category. Starting with the lowest damage marksman rifle, the M110, this gun still has enough stopping power to one-shot most units and has a 20-round mag to assist its more spammy playstyle. Even with lower damage numbers than the other 3 rifles, it still has enough to 6-shot dozers, which isn't bad at all. The L96 is probably the least valuable in the bundle, not because it's weak by any stretch of the imagination, it's plenty strong, it just happens to bring the clunkiness bolt action snipers often do, meaning when compared to the next weapon, the M98, it's tough to make an argument for ever using it. It outperforms on damage, bolts much faster, and handles perfectly. The L96 only really wins out on total ammo capacity, but both have plenty in reserve. This thing one-shots almost everything, 3 taps dozers, and with the right skills is even amazing up against groups. Definitely not a weapon you can go wrong with. And neither is the M95, which is the highest damaging primary in the game. My take is that it's a bit overkill, you don't need that extra damage when the mid-range snipers already do so much, but it can allow you to throw out a few more lethal body shots. There's also the style factor to consider. I don't know if it's worth the capacity and mag size trade-off, but that's up to you to decide. Either way, it's another top tier weapon from a single DLC pack, a little more expensive coming in at 379 Robux, but this is still a great value buy with at least 3 unique and immensely powerful weapons within it. Finally though, I'm not sure anything can compete with the heavy weapon pack. Whilst this DLC bundle only unlocks 2 weapons, meaning the price to value ratio is substantially lower, the 2 weapons it provides you with are some of the best and most unique in the entire game. The minigun is quite frankly incredible. It looks great, it feels great, and it's just monstrously overpowered. With a fire rate of 2000 and an assault rifle damage, nothing about this thing is fair. It just tears through everything. Obviously, its concealment is awful, meaning you're going to want to run this with an armoured build, but that's probably advisable anyway, as its DPS is more than enough without any skills augmenting it. Genuinely, nothing comes close to this thing. It has slightly limited pickup and a longish reload speed, but otherwise, it is this game's god gun. I felt close to immortal when rocking it across every single difficulty, and if it was just overpowered, that wouldn't be enough to drop it at the top of my list. But this thing is gameplay warping. It feels excellent to fire even within the Roblox engine, and you can't deny the fun factor when it comes to it. Speaking of which, the other weapon in this DLC is the RPG. With over 13,000 damage and a 20 unit blast radius, this weapon is also completely unfair and immensely satisfying to use. Whilst you can't replenish ammo for it via regular means, Notoriety does give you other methods, such as pairing it with Loud and Proud Ace, to refill it every single assault. And 4 shots are more than enough, allowing you to either decimate half the wave or take out key targets in just 1 rocket. I will say, both of these weapons were buffed in the most recent update, so there is room for them to be rebalanced further in the future, but at the moment they're so dominant that I found it hard to go back to running any other more standard build. Even just at level 100 without any infamy bonus points, this build I'm showing you now felt virtually indestructible if you're looking for some inspiration, and it's almost entirely carried by the monstrous power of both the RPG and minigun. Oh, and enjoy those 1 minute long bullet storms. Just keep in mind it sadly doesn't work for the RPG, because that would probably brick the game. What's the takeaway then? Well, first, Notoriety's base game content is excellent and doesn't tangibly differ in relative quality to anything costing real money. Second, if you want everything in the game, it's gonna be a little on the expensive side, not helped by Roblox operating a racket. Third, you can pick up 3 DLCs containing a total of 10 weapons without spending more than £10. I just recommend you target the heavy weapons, marksman and shotgun packs. That way you avoid messing around with any of the dodgy bundle prices. And most importantly, I learned that you really should give this game a go if my last video wasn't enough to convince you. Actually spending money on it has resulted in me being even more convinced that there's a highly capable and gameplay driven team working on this title. I'm also extremely pleased to see the sort of quiet updates like what we saw a couple of weeks ago making notable differences to the gameplay. It's the sign of a healthy, well-supported game, which we really can't take for granted right now. Let me know if you have any other questions regarding this one, happy to weigh in on what it feels like to sell your soul to the Roblox company, and also let me know what you think if you're already a DLC owner. I saw a lot of Brickbank fans in the comments last time, and I need to know if the minigun is as broken as I believe it to be. That all said, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.
A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.